last 20 years or so, there has been a growing interest in the notion of rethinking the animal. There is a philosophical history to this that might be said to begin with Peter Singer, the Australian philosophy, and the notion of animal rights, which has had different ramifications in different ways. But again, this is an idea that also can be traced back to Derrida, whose work on thinking the animal-human divide has also been an especially interesting development in philosophy and critical studies. Parallel to that, I started noticing that a lot of contemporary artwork took on the issue of the animal with the understanding, as Derrida argued, that to construct the notion of the animal as a unitary, as a unified category, despite the immense diversity of all animal life, operates to establish the singularity, the essential qualities of what is the human, so that the great binary between the human being and animal in all its diversity is a binary that needs to be rethought. And in this respect, I started to register that, as with artistic work around the notion of haunting, spectrology, and the apparition, there was a corresponding investigation of what it means to constitute something as the animal without taking on board the way the philosophical or biological or natural history notion of the animal is one of those binaries that secure the sovereignty and the hegemony of the human being, who, needless to say, is always, as a universal, a white Western subject. So much as the artistic investigation of hauntology troubles notions of what is the real, what is the psychological, what is the repressed, so too, I think, does this recent artistic investigation of the human-animal divide serve to make us aware of how relations of subordination and domination, how the biblical attribution to Adam to have sovereignty over the entire world produces ultimately the ecological disaster that we currently are living through, with no notion of where it's going to end. So it isn't that I think that artistic work illustrates philosophical thinking, but the manifestations that one sees in current artistic practice is a parallel form of thought that, in a sense, creates another way of thinking about those very same issues, problems, and contradictions that philosophers take on board.